Welcome to the Evergreen Podcast. Conor Ceballos, head video analyst for the Portland Timbers. Are you secretly the reason the Timbers have scored the most goals in club history this year?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say probably Evander, Jonah, Pipe, and Santi are the main reason, but I'll take some credit a little bit.
So there's the front four and then Conor Ceballos right after that.
Right after that.
So me and you, we both kind of sit up in that booth for the first 45 at least. I think that's where the similarities end. Before we get into the nitty-gritty and your journey over the last 2-3 years, what's game day look like for you?
Game day is a lot of fun. It's very hectic. You know, there's a lot of pressure, but it's the best part of the job, right? That's why we do it. Basically, we get there a few hours before the game and just finish all the prep and all the last messages before the game. I'll help put together a video meeting for the players. So Phil kind of uses that along with his team talk to kind of recap everything we've done over the week and hit all the little tactical things that we want to do with video. So I'll help put that together, and then, like you said, I'll go upstairs to the booth. So the first half, I'm upstairs with Shannon, our assistant coach, and we'll be watching the game from up high, and I'll have my laptop where I'm kind of clipping things out. We're in communication with the bench, so if we see anything from upstairs that might be going well or going wrong that we want to change, we can tell them. And then, at halftime, I'll have some video ready for the team. If Phil wants to show anything, wants to make any changes that video can help show the team, I'll have that ready. Second half, Shannon goes down to the bench, so it's just me upstairs. And again, I'm in communication with the sideline if I see anything. And it's the most fun, especially at Providence Park with the crowd going crazy and obviously a lot of goals scored this year. It's a little bit lonely up there, to be honest. In the second half, sometimes we'll score a late winner or crazy things will happen. It's just me celebrating by myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the lonesome celebration look like? You jumping up and down? Because I know at Providence Park there's at least glass, so I think some media can see you.
Yeah. Well, it's see-through on both sides, so it's usually like me jumping up and down and then kind of looking around and like, okay, let's chill out a little bit and look professional.
When you say communication, I see Dave Vandenberg, the assistant coach, with AirPods in. Is it literally just like a phone call?
Yeah, it's a WhatsApp call. We used to do like radios, but then they would always not work, and we've seen WhatsApp work a little bit better. So it's literally just a WhatsApp call on AirPods. Sorry to interrupt, but you talked a little bit about making those halftime adjustments in film. Is that an every game thing? If the play is going great in the first 45, is film kind of pushed to the side? Is there a moment where the video analysis is more important than other moments? Yeah, definitely. It's probably not every game. So every game I'll do the same routine. I'll clip everything on video and have everything ready at halftime. So when Phil and the other coaches that are on the sideline come in, I'll always usually show them one or two things that we've seen from upstairs, whether it's going good or bad. But no, it's not every game that we'll show something to the team. Sometimes the changes are simple, or sometimes the game's going well and there's not much to change. So it's just a pep talk from Phil with maybe a couple things that he'll show on a tactics board. And then sometimes there's some real changes that we'll have to make to how we defend or attack, and it's better to show that quickly with a video clip. So
I was doing play-by-play for the Timbers all through Leagues Cup. In that first game against Lyon, Phil, Dave, Liam Bridgewell, the assistant coaches, looked up to the booth and pointed, and I was like, are they looking at me? Did I do this? But afterwards I asked them about it, and they said they were pointing up to you. Can you kind of take us through that moment and what the celebrations were alluding to?
Yeah, that was cool. So if I remember correctly, that was when Zach scored on a corner kick, or two corner kicks, and they looked up and celebrated with me, which was really cool. I think they were just going back that week, we worked a ton on our corner kicks and especially attacking. We made a point to tell the team, this is how we've done so far in the year. I think we've only scored one corner kick out of, basically 100 that we had. So we trained it. We showed a lot of video on it. And to see it, happen in the game and us to score 2 goals was really cool. So I think it was just acknowledgement or excitement from those guys to look up and celebrate with me. That was cool.
Do you have another favorite moment from this season that's something that you played a part in and maybe you picked out video-wise that came into play in the second half?
I would say another corner kick was David Ayala at the back post. That was something me and Shannon saw in the first half. And then we made the adjustment second half. David scores a goal. And then next time we play, or Colorado, next time we play them, we score again in the same spot. So that was pretty cool. Little moments throughout the season like that where you feel like you played a part in it.
What do you think the best game the Portland Timbers have played this year is?
I think my favorite was our opening game against Colorado, where we won 4-0. And it was my first time in Providence Park. The atmosphere was great. I felt like for me personally, like a lot of work went into preseason. There was I moved across the country, and to see all that work pay off in the first game, and I was like, wow, this is a great environment. We've got great players, great fans. It was exciting to see. So I think for me, probably the first game. But man, there's been a lot of good moments, a lot of big comebacks, and a lot of goals, obviously.
So for me on the broadcast side, kind of an ideal Portland Timbers game was the LA Galaxy match in September where there's 6 goals, you get to practice as many goal calls as you want, it's super fun, and then afterwards on the post-game show, you've got eternity to talk about. What is the ideal Portland Timbers game for you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, ideal game for me is usually that we just win and get 3 points. But yeah, basically there's 2 different types of wins. You have a win where maybe we win 2-0 or 3-0 and there's not a lot to adjust because things went really well. Those games are great. That's probably my ideal game. For me in my role, there's probably more learning when maybe the other team makes an adjustment, we make an adjustment, and there's some different interesting things going on in the game, and maybe it's a tougher battle, but ultimately we win. So yeah, just as long as we get 3 points, I'm happy.
So you're the head video analyst now for the Portland Timbers, but 3 years ago it was anything but. You had a finance degree, and I don't think that really went your way in terms of what you're doing now, but what were you doing after you graduated from Kennesaw State?
Yeah, I didn't have too much of an idea that I wanted to work in soccer. I had a degree in finance. I had a couple jobs in that industry that I just really didn't like. And around that time, I actually started a little business on Amazon where I was selling bobblehead toys, and it did okay. It surprised me how well it did. So I had enough money to kind of sit and think about what I wanted to do. And then, this was during COVID again, so I was just sitting around my house, and Premier League came back on TV. And I had kind of gone a few years putting soccer in the back of my mind and just focusing on school and my business. But I got really into the Premier League, and I started watching all the games and reading blogs and reading stuff on social media, people analyzing the games, and I thought it was really cool. So at that point, I started to think maybe I could do that as a career. Maybe it's an option to be an analyst or a scout or something, and maybe that could be an easier route than coaching, where maybe I can work for a professional team. So yeah, I just started trying anything I could. I volunteered back at the college where I played as an assistant coach, and I got a job with Atlanta United as but very low level, working with their youth camps. So this was summer camp, so it was 6, 7, 8-year-olds, very low level. But eventually I worked my way in and got higher up the totem pole and started volunteering for their second team. One thing led to another, and now here I am. But
You've obviously had quick success. What did your parents think when you have the finance degree, some internships off the bat? It's probably a positive sign that you're going to make it in that industry, saying, at this time, I'm a toy mogul, and then also I want to go into soccer.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a toy mogul, but, I was doing okay. They're really supportive. So my parents have always been super supportive. My dad is the reason why I love sports and the reason why I got into soccer. So I think part of the reason that I chose to pursue this career was, to make them proud and to make, to fulfill my own happiness, because I wasn't finding it in what I originally had planned. I think they saw that, so they were very supportive. Maybe in the back of their minds, they weren't sure that I could make it to where I am now. I think I didn't either, to be honest. It was a few years. It has been quick success, but there was a few years where it didn't feel like anything was really happening, and I was questioning whether I made the right decision. I had friends that were, had great jobs and were moving out of their parents' house and had more money and this and that, and so there was a lot of doubting my decision. But my parents were great. My family's always been great, and now that's one of the best parts, is getting to share the experience with them. They watch all the games, and when they come visit, they go to the game. So that's really, really cool.
You talked about how your dad's a big sporting influence in your life, mine as well. I wouldn't be working in broadcasting or media without him. Does he ever give you like tactical notes after a Timbers game saying, hey, tell Phil this, tell the guys this?
Yeah, always. I mean, he doesn't tell me to tell the guys, but he watches every game. He's usually my first call after the game. I always like talking to him about the matches, or about training that day, or about the crazy thing Phil said. So yeah, my dad is probably my biggest confidant, and I'm really grateful for his support. And he does have good advice sometimes, and he sees things in the game that sometimes I don't see. So he's a good person to call.
So you're working with Atlanta United. You're working with like 6, 7, 8-year-olds. At that point, Are you thinking video analysis, or are you thinking coach on the field?
So basically, like I said, I worked for the college that I was at as an assistant coach. Ended up making a connection at Atlanta United from working with the college team. And he said, yeah, there's an opening for coaches to coach our summer camp. So basically, I heard there's an opening at Atlanta United. I'll do whatever job, and I'll try to, see what happens from there. So I was definitely thinking video analysis, and I want to try to do other things at the club. But yeah, I enjoyed coaching those summer camps, and it eventually led to coaching like their pre-academy program. So I got some good coaching experience within that. But I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to try to push for other opportunities at the club.
I mean, did you tell your friends that didn't know soccer, hey, I'm a coach with Atlanta United?
I didn't, but I had all the cool gear still, because they give you a nice kit, so that was a good perk. But no, I didn't feel comfortable saying that.
I asked James Pantemis this about what does he do with all his Montreal gear, because he was there for literally academy, pre-professional and professional.
Yeah.
What do you do with your Atlanta United gear? And we'll get to your Miami gear as well, but what do you do with
Well, it really adds up. You get a ton of gear throughout the season. My Atlanta United gear, I left with my family in Atlanta, and I think they wear it, or they wear the jerseys when they go to games and stuff. My Inter Miami gear I still have in a box underneath my bed. So yeah, you do end up with a ton of gear, and it's hard to know what to do with it when you leave.
So when did the call from Miami come in? You were working for Atlanta, but not for the first team, and now January 2023, you're working for Inter Miami. How did that come to be?
Yeah, it was a big change, right? All of a sudden you go from working with young kids and doing volunteer work, and now I'm working with the first team Inter Miami. But it was a process. I started, like I said, coaching for Atlanta United, and then eventually I reached out to their second team coach and started doing opposition analysis for their second team. So basically, every week I would scout the teams that they were playing and kind of get video clips for them to show to their players, and do like statistical reports on what their trends were and their strengths and weaknesses. So it was a really good experience, and it gave me kind of like a portfolio of work to show. So during that time I was applying for all kinds of jobs in MLS. And Inter Miami came up that they were hiring a video analyst, so I put in for it. This was in, I think, 2021. This was before I started working with Atlanta United, so just working with the college team. I got pretty far in the interview process, but ultimately didn't get the job. but I maintained a good relationship with the person that interviewed me, who became my boss. His name's Alex Scott. Really great guy, was their head video analyst. So we would, talk every once in a while. He would give me advice throughout that next year. Then at the end of that year, basically I got a lucky break, and the guy who got the job before had to leave or went to another club or something, so they offered me the position. A couple weeks later, me and my wife moved to Miami.
I think you mentioned your son was 2 months old when you moved to Portland, so he's about a year at this point, I presume. When's Project Mbappe starting with him? Is he going to be a Portland Timber at 16 years old?
I don't know. Well, now that I work here, I realize how hard it is to get there. So no pressure on my little boy to make it, but he already loves playing with the little soccer ball, so maybe it's already started a little bit. And, I always got soccer on the TV and on my computer, so he's definitely studying whether he wants to or not.
Content team here at the Timbers does a great job showing the halftime locker room, sometimes with speeches from Phil Neville and the effect motivationally that it has on the second half. Mm-hmm. What is that halftime locker room like? Can you give us an insight?
Yeah, it depends. The emotions can be really high, really low, depending on how the game's going. For me, I try to be as level as possible and as calm as possible, and just deliver on what I have to deliver on. But yeah, I say if we're down in a game, if we're not playing up to the level, there's some disappointed looks from the guys, and maybe some of the leaders on the team are speaking to players. Usually for me, I'll go downstairs with Shannon, and we'll have things written out and ready to show. And Phil and the rest of the staff come in on a different level energy-wise, just because they're on the field and they're on the bench and they're feeling that energy. So it takes a minute for them to kind of readjust and think, okay, these are what we can change. And but at the same time, it's good to have that emotion. So when Phil goes in then to the players' locker room and gives his talk, it does work to fire people up, because he's just as fired up. He wishes, I think, he could go play again. So yeah, emotions can be high depending on the situation. So it's usually a combination of pep talk mixed with, okay, tactically, what can we change in the game?
On the player side of things, does anybody give a damn good halftime speech or a pregame speech?
Max has given a couple good ones. Max Grapeau. Diego is, unquestionably the man in the locker room. He's the leader of the team. Although I think he's a little bit more of a lead by example type. But when he does say something to the group, everyone listens, and it's powerful. So those two guys for me.
I know your dad is from Colombia. When you're given the halftime presentations, are they always in English, or do you sometimes try it out in Spanish?
Usually, if it comes from Phil, it's in English, and we have people translating in Spanish. Then, yeah, players that speak Spanish will say things in Spanish. When I give like a video presentation, or we give our team meetings, I'll type everything in English and Spanish, just so it's easy to read for those guys.
I think you're more well-equipped than any to answer this question. How are Phil Neville's Portland Timbers different than Phil Neville's Inter Miami? Of course, the personnel is different, but tactically, what's different on the pitch?
Sure. Interesting question. Yeah, like you said, the players are different. Inter Miami of right now is very different than what we had back then, Inter Miami. So, in my opinion, we were a little bit limited with the players that we had. Whereas now with the Timbers, I feel like overall we have a stronger roster, probably more veteran players, whereas Miami at that time was more of a younger team. I think now with the Timbers, especially having Providence Park, and it's a smaller pitch and it's quick with the turf, and you've got the crowd, I think we've developed more of an identity, obviously, to be an attacking team, scoring a lot of goals, and we've gone with more of a high press mentality, where Miami, at the time, I feel like we were maybe a little bit more reactive and adjusted for the opponent, where now we feel like we can kind of impose our game plan on the other teams. So yeah, I feel like that's a big difference. And then yeah, the players make a big difference when you have really good attacking players. It's easier, especially with a coach like Phil, who likes to give those guys freedom to do what they want in the attack. You can see it benefits us.
A small Argentinian man comes to Miami named Leo Messi, if you've heard of him before.
Yeah.
What was it like meeting him? Did you practice in the mirror the night before you saw him for the first time?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was crazy, like, to go from a few years before, not even considering, like, working in the sport, then, working volunteer jobs, low level, and all of a sudden now you're working with the greatest player ever. It was a little bit surreal. I was nervous to go meet him. Obviously, I work with a lot of professional players, and you just try not to get starstruck, and I don't typically, but, it is the greatest of all time, Messi. So the first time I saw him in the building was, to be honest, I was like, wow, it's Messi. You just don't think it's really going to happen. But yeah, I remember the first time I went up and shook his hand and said, "Nice to meet you," and that was really it. But yeah, he was a very open, like, nice guy and humble, and everything you see about him basically is true. He's just very laid back, quiet, and polite guy. So
I'm sure you'd watched him dozens, if not hundreds of times before, but now that you were analyzing him with, like, a professional lens, did you notice anything new about his game?
No, I mean, yeah, definitely a little bit. I'd watched him as a fan. Never thought I would see him play in person, let alone work with him. I think one thing that surprised me was his work ethic. It really shouldn't surprise me because of the levels that he's got to. You need to have a good work ethic. But, he was always did extra in the gym, and he would ask for extra video on opponent, on the goalkeepers and stuff, which surprised me. So that was really cool to see. And just to see in person, like, he just has special qualities that I don't know that you could coach. He's so hard to take the ball off of. He can see any pass and play any pass, and yeah, similar to what you see on TV. I don't know that I've noticed anything different. It's just when you see it in person, it's just special.
It's kind of a larger question when it comes to coaching, because you've been around a couple of first-year head coaches. You were with Phil Neville at the beginning of Miami. It was his third year at that point. Halfway through the season, Tata Martino comes in, and now you've noticed the first year of Phil Neville in Portland. Fans often hear the word culture. What does that first week or two with a new head coach look like in the facility and in the stadium?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there's definitely a little bit of, like, anticipation in the air. I remember in Miami when Tata came, you just weren't sure what was going to happen next. Well, back then I was scared that I was going to lose my job, and I think some of the players were too. So you're just kind of waiting to see what happens. But each coach has their own style, how they come into a team. Phil, I remember the first week of preseason with the Timbers, had a big meeting with all the players and staff and kind of set out his expectations for the season, but also set out his expectations for behavior on and off the field and trying to set that culture. So I think every coach has a little bit differences in their language or the things that they value or think are important. But ultimately it comes down to the people in the team and in the staff that they create the culture, right? So here we have a really good culture, really, like, close-knit family feeling culture that I think was partly because of Phil and partly because of what was already here and the people here.
I think you made the furthest possible trip in Major League Soccer from Miami to Portland. How has life been off the pitch for you, your wife? I know you have a young child as well.
Yeah, well, it's good now. We feel settled in Portland, and we really like it, but it was hard at first. That was probably the worst part, was the move from Miami here with our baby at the time.
Did you drive?
No, we flew. That would have been crazy. We flew, but our baby at the time was only 2 months old, so it was stressful. He was born in Florida, then we went back for the holidays in Georgia, then we came back and moved to Portland just a couple weeks after, so it was really hectic. First week we got here was the big snowstorm, so we were stuck in, like, a hotel room with the baby. My wife's like, "Why did we come here? What are we doing?" So the beginning was hard, and then we have preseason, and we leave for a couple weeks to go on preseason trips, and so she's at home with the baby. Luckily, we had family fly down and help out, but the beginning was hectic. Now I think we feel a lot more settled, and we really like where we live and the people that we've got to know here.
So when you're with Miami, they never played Portland, so did you have a expectation of what this team was or could be before you really joined?
Yeah, so last year, like you said, we didn't play Portland. I watch all the teams a little bit, but wasn't too familiar. Then when I found out I'd be getting the job, I went back and watched a bunch of their games. So I had a bit of an idea of what to expect just from watching all the players. And I knew that there was a lot of talent on the team, which got me really excited. I think it got Phil really excited when he was, telling me about the team. So yeah, just from what I'd seen in video. But then when you get here and see the players in training, it's different and it's even better. So
this might be a hard question, but you watch this game closer than anybody. Of course, you're watching the clips over and over again. You're recording practice as well. Is there something Timber fans should look out for from a specific player the next time they watch a game that they might not notice?
Great question. I would say, most Timbers fans are aware of Diego Chara winning the ball back, but I always love watching him run 50 yards and break up a counterattack. I think it's just as good as scoring a goal on the other end. So that's something great to look out for. I don't want to give away too many of our secrets. I love watching Evander when he has the ball at his feet and he's just holding defenders off and controlling. I think that's a really special quality that he has. Santi, when he receives the ball in between defenders, he can turn so quick and go towards goal. I love watching our players play, so I don't know that I can think of too many specific things.
The biggest recent kind of discovery for fans in the analytical world, I really would say over the last 5 years, is expected goals. Mm-hmm. Do fans put too much stock into that? You hear it so often.
Yeah, I think it's a good measure to have, right? Like it's a good statistic, but sometimes you just kind of have to watch the game and get a feel for the game. There are things within XG that can be counted that aren't really as big of a chance as it might get accounted for, or vice versa. There might be a huge chance that gets blocked or something like that. So maybe a little bit too much stock goes into it, but it's definitely a good baseline measure to have. Maybe more over the course of a season it starts to even out where it's good to look at, but individual games, sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Conor, a few days ago off camera, we were talking about how video games kind of sparked our interest in sport. If it wasn't for Madden or FIFA, would you be here today? And how did you utilize those games to spark your interest in tactics and analysis?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I grew up, I always loved playing video games, loved sports. I was a big Madden fan when I was younger. I was a big NFL fan. Me and my dad would play Madden online together for like hours every night. And I don't know, it does kind of increase your love for sports, and you just get into it and you end up knowing all the players just by playing hours of the game. Same with FIFA. I don't know if it helped develop like my tactical knowledge of the game. I was just trying to score goals and beat the other people I was playing, but you do end up knowing like all the teams and all the players, and yeah, it keeps you interested. And I think for kids now, it's good to have that. You obviously have to balance it without actually going outside and playing the sport, but it's a good way to kind of to practice and stay interested in the game when you're not playing.
A pretty open-ended question, and something that I've kind of hinted with you on Tuesday when we talked the first time, but what's the future of a job like yours? Like, what's the future of video analysis?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, definitely, like, data in the league is getting to the next level, and video in the league is getting better and better. Now they have AI technology that tracks players and records all their stats just based on the number on their back, I think. So, yeah, technology is moving forward, I think. For me, I definitely use that to help my job, but there's also like a bit of a subjective side to it. So hopefully it never replaces fully like what I do, just like, hopefully it doesn't, I don't think you could replace a coach or an assistant coach. So yeah, I'm not sure what the future looks like, but there's definitely tools getting better and better.
Well, Conor, thanks for joining us on Evergreen Podcast. For fans that when you're watching the game, Conor's got an even closer eye on it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Awesome. No, thanks, Adam. It was great talking to you.